Hi everybody, my name is Nicole Granucci and I'm the lab coordinator for Physics 110 and 101 lab, and I'm going to be your lab instructor for this semester. I just want to let you know that I'm going to use this video for all my sections, so obviously if you're a different section than section 1 that I have presented here, please, obviously review your section number and your information. The only thing that will be different is your meeting time and section number, but everything else will be the same here. So I'm excited to be teaching this semester. It's certainly been crazy, but I've been working very hard this semester translating all of our labs to online. Now, I know it's absolutely much better to do things in person. Trust me, this upsets me. But I really worked hard on trying to make this experience as best as possible. That this is not just a click and, you're just clicking on things. You're actually going to be taking measurements. So you're going to be using your cell phone stopwatches. And we have some really cool video software, which I'll demonstrate toward the end of the video, that we can actually do video capturing. So in other words, we can actually calculate how fast something's going, and we can take distance measurements, all from using video. It's pretty cool. So I'll show you all those things. So let me first talk about the course itself. I'll start off by talking about the course syllabus and going over everything on the course syllabus. Then I'm going to take you through Blackboard and show you how to use the Blackboard for the course. And then I'll demonstrate the Vernier stuff that we're going to be using, which will be part of our first lab. So, okay, so my name's Nicole Granucci. You can obviously get my emails, nicolegranucci@quinnipiac.edu. Now, because of the situation, all my office hours will be virtual via Zoom, and those are the scheduled times. Actually, I have to change this time to 1 o'clock, so you'll see it on Blackboard way before the start of your class. It's a change I have to make. But anyway, the point is, you'll be able to schedule a Zoom meeting at any point. If you know you're definitely coming to my office hours, send me an email so I can expect you. It's okay, you can do it as open door, but it's really helpful if I know, because then I can, not eat a sandwich well, I open up my Zoom session and you're there. So, just give me a heads up if you know you're definitely going to be there. But know that you can come in at any point with that. So our class will be synchronous and online. And in fact, we're going to do most of your lab just like you would in typical lab during our scheduled time. And I'll explain a little bit about that. But it is synchronous. We're not doing anything asynchronously. It's good. We're going to model this very much like a regular lab class. You can read all of these later. This is all the course tools. So course materials, you definitely need some sort of scientific calculator. We're going to do some trigonometry, so you need something with a sine function. Most of you have a TI-84 or whatever. This is the newest one. I went out and splurged and I got the green one. I used to have a TI-84, but it died. It was like 20 years old. But anyway, a calculator is really helpful for this course. And then we're actually going to be doing a lab where you're going to be scaling vectors, which means you're going to need a ruler and a protractor. In the Blackboard course, I give you some Amazon cheap links. If you have one already, it's fine. If you buy one at the bookstore, it's fine. It doesn't matter what kind you have, as long as you have a way to measure angles and measure scaling, so a ruler. So if you have it already, awesome. I highly recommend when we do our tracking for video tracking is to have a mouse. I don't know how I would live without my mouse. I still use it. Most of you are pretty good with a laptop. And you can use the laptop screen, but I recommend it, okay? I just find it so much easier. And then a scanner document for the phone. We're going to actually use that for the scaling lab. And I find that if you use a scanner document versus taking a picture with your phone, it just comes out a lot more clearer. The lighting's good. I just recommend that much better. So I'll talk about that later. So here's the idea of the class. I'll just basically talk literally what I'm going to say here. I'm going to tell you now. So the class is just, honestly, we're going to model lab. So what's going to happen is we'll have our Zoom meeting. Before lab, you have to complete the pre-lab. This really should say pre-lab, not that lab video, but pre-lab. And you'll complete the pre-lab, which will be online. I'll show you that on Blackboard. And then what we'll do is in class, I'll go through how to do the lab, talk about any places you may be stuck, talk about the theory, I do a lab intro. And then what I'm going to do is put you all into breakout rooms. Now the breakout rooms are going to be just like lab. You're going to have a partner. So I'm going to assign partners randomly since, at this point, we're just going to do it that way. We'll assign partners randomly where I'll break you onto groups. I'll probably give you about, 15 to 20 minutes to kind of, work together on the lab. Now, when you're in your breakout room, the idea is for one of you to share your screen and that you're taking measurements together. So your measurements will be the same. So, so just like lab, if someone's timing with a stopwatch, someone's recording, someone's playing, whatever the case is. If you're taking a distance measurement, you're going to have the same measurements, and that's okay. After 20 minutes or so, I'll come in and check in and make sure everything's going okay. It's literally just just peeking in and just making sure that, hey, is there any questions? Are you having trouble with something? You're doing something, and you might have questions on that. So that's the idea of the breakout room. Now, at the end of a lab session, what we're going to do is we're going to post our lab data. And it's me, as an instructor, the reason why we're doing this is so I can just have a checkpoint. Typically in lab, what I'll do is actually look at your data before you leave just to make sure it's right, that you don't have like a vertical graph when you should have a horizontal graph or something like that. So we're going to post on this thing called Padlet. It's pretty easy. It's super easy. So don't worry, it's not technically hard at all to use. But it's way better than like discussion boards or anything else because it's like too much clicking. Like this, you just post all the data is there, everybody's data is there, and then I'll use that time to actually talk about the data. I'll ask some interesting questions. Data is always interesting. I might ask some questions and try to stimulate some conversation that might help you answer your conclusion questions. And then after class, you will complete your lab report and the lab quiz. So that's like the structure of our online synchronous model that we're going to be doing. I understand that honestly life is crazy right now and all things of life can happen. So just know that I'm here to work with you, and the biggest thing is communication. So maybe it's possible that you may get sick, and that's fine. Just please notify me as soon as you can about your your missed class. It's expected that you are all classes, but if you need an extension or cannot come to class, just let me know. I'm pretty reasonable. What happens is the problem becomes when you don't tell me until 3 weeks later that you were sick actually that time, and that's why you missed the lab. So unless of course there's a circumstance, but you know what I mean. Communication is really, really helpful, so please just let me know. So this is my communication plan. I just want to let you know, how the course is going to work, especially it being online. So I put the introductory video. Sometimes I'll have one, sometimes I won't. So just know that's not for every class, but if I do, you're required to watch it before the class. And then the typical, this is, you can see I'm already doing my communication plan. I'm going to send this video out now so that you can kind of review the course. Announcements. I'll use weekly announcements where I'll just check in and say, hey, everyone did good on this lab. I saw a lot of people have questions on this. This is what this is, and that's when I'm going to do that. So you'll have a weekly announcement from me, which will be sent to your email as well. So you'll just constantly in contact with all of you. Email. So my email policy is I'll get back to you within 24 hours if it's during the work week. So please give me 24 hours because, for I know at least for 4 hours on Monday, I'm just out, so that's why I asked for a full day to get back to you. So it's atypical that I don't respond to you within 24 hours. Even if it's like, I got this email, I'll look into this or something like that, I'll respond to you. If you see that I don't respond to you, that's atypical, and that's usually because even in my best days, even when I'm doing my best to try to answer emails, I miss them. It just happens, okay? Please don't take offense. I'm not ignoring you. But if you feel you're being ignored, please resend the email, and I'm totally fine with that. Saturdays are my offline days. I don't check my email on Saturdays. I think I just need a break, so that's my no-call day. Doesn't mean you can't email me. It's just I'm not going to check them. Nope. Taking a day for my family and for me, and that's my day. So the next time I check emails, then it'll probably be either Sunday evening or early Monday morning. So I'll get back to you, and by all means, email me anytime, but this is the way I'll respond. So the good thing about pre-labs is they're already programmed on a blackboard. So in other words, that they'll be graded pretty much, well, I have it set that they're graded after all attempts are submitted. So in other words, you won't get any feedback until I release it. But for the most part, they'll be graded pretty much after the start of lab, if not sooner. Before the start of lab, I'll quickly look at the pre-labs and see if there's any glaring questions, and then that will be part of my intro to the lab. Labs are, I will grade labs and give them back to you within a week. It takes me a week to grade labs. It actually takes me a couple hours to grade your lab. It's a lot of work. And I needed a lot of time to do it. So a week is sufficient. I'm usually not late with labs, and I don't like to be late with labs because it's too much. But I will get them back 1 week. So basically, when you're going to post your data, I'm going to basically you did it or you didn't, and it's part of your lab grade. So in other words, if you decide one day that you're going to come out of lab early but not posting, you'll lose some credit with that within your lab grade. So the point is just post, when it comes down to that. So it's not something I'm really going to super grade on. It's not by it's about completion. It's not by accuracy too. Lab quizzes, so they'll be graded and returned by the start of the next lab. So those are also graded online. And you won't get your grade until I've graded all the attempts. And I'll talk about that later. So, I'm actually going to skip the details of this because I'm going to talk about it when I talk about Blackboard. So I'm going to go ahead and skip this, but you're going to have labs, pre-lab, lab posts, and quizzes, and I'll talk about that a little later. The course itself will be heavily weighted on labs, as you might expect, pre-labs, and quizzes like that. So 80%, so most of your course grade is your lab work. 15% on knowing what you're doing, and 5% on knowing before you do the lab what you're doing. I'll grade you with a rubric that looks pretty much like this. It's pretty straightforward, making sure all your calculations are there. You have all, this is the offending factor. People just forget units, so try not to forget them. Making sure your data is appropriate. This is all just like formalities, and then this is understanding. So notice the weight of your lab comes from these two. Being able to elaborate your answers, having sophisticated interpretation, and applying concepts. So not just answering the question, but answering and explaining. So making sure you have those two parts. I call it claim evidence reasoning. Tell me what your answer is, what your evidence for your answer is, and why your answer works for that case. Claim evidence reasoning. And then, of course, I holistically grade your lab because, you may have really great graphs and everything looks good, but you just didn't understand maybe the major concept of the lab, or vice versa. Maybe you had terrible data and everything didn't work, but you understood the lab. So there's, you can see how things can shift, and that's why I kind of have this as a flexibility point. Allows me to kind of grade you holistically. I'm going to say this, but we're all law-abiding citizens, and I assume this is not going to be an issue, but let's pretend we're all on the same page here. Naturally, you're going to be working with a partner, in which case I know your data will be the same. However, copying, pasting any sort of things, such as your graph, data tables, or anything like that, or ideas, are not permitted. So even though you might discuss your discussion questions together, please use your own voice. What I mean is that if I read one lab and it sounds exactly the same, even if it's not worded the same, but if it sounds the same as the other person, then you need to work on your own voice. We could all go see, I don't know, a movie. I can't think of a movie off the top of my head. I haven't been to a movie in so long. I don't know, the Star Wars movie. We all see Star Wars. We might have an opinion on it. We might agree on the opinion, but the way we display and talk about it will be different. I did it as an in-class demonstration. It was pretty actually amazing and how different everybody's interpretation was, even though we all agreed. So same thing. So obviously, please do your own work is my big take-home with that. Please, on online responsibility, making sure that if there's any internet issues. Trust me, I know things happen. I'm happy to work with you. Please just test everything out in advance is basically what I'm asking you, so that we can work together. If I find that your labs are identical, I'll go through academic integrity and file a complaint. If I see that your labs are similar, I'll address you first and give you a warning and say this is too similar, please rewrite them. I mean, I only usually go to academic integrity if it's a blatant appearance of plagiarism. But I have gone through academic integrity because it's just not fair if one lab partner is doing all the work and the other one isn't. It's just not fair, and that's actually what it comes down to. It's actually easy for me because it's the same work, but it's not right. So when it comes down to that, please even if you're like is this too much like my partner? Just send me an email, and I'm happy to look at it. But I'd rather you do that than me have to file a complaint for your protection, actually, and the class protection through academic integrity. And this is all the new policies on ADA, Title IX, the CARE, and Learning Commons. And of course, always, if you know something, if you'd like to share something that's helpful as me as an instructor, that would be helpful for you, please feel free. If you, I know sometimes your course roster has a different name. If you go by a different name, just let me know. This is a totally inclusive classroom. I know, I want to support everybody, and just let me know how I can be supportive if it's not clear or blatant already. So just know that. And here's our semester. This is the start of the week, so Yom Kippur, the whole week is off for everybody, so even if you don't have lab on that Monday, that week is off. But you can see the first 3 labs, and then this is our lab schedule. So you can see there's different types of labs. There's online, where you're going to be working with a website or simulation, a home lab, vernier and video lab. So we're going to do all different styles to keep it different too, because otherwise you get bored. So like I said, I worked really hard on trying to make this as best as I can make it for online. So, all right. So let me just walk you through the course page, just so you know where everything is. So obviously announcements are here. I'll send an email too, because it's good to get both. Instructor information is pretty self-explanatory. This is all of the stuff that I've taught, a little bit about me, including where my office is, and don't take offense to this, but don't come to my office during this time. But I do mention it in case you need to drop something off. You're welcome to, I don't know if you needed to drop something off or give me a piece of paper, you can put it underneath or something like that. But this is the way you can contact me. And this is my schedule in case you are wondering. I am going to change my office hours, so you'll see this updated before the start of class. But for the most part, you can obviously see that I'm busy during these blocks of time. So if you're trying to get a hold of me, you can take a look at that. And anything after 4 o'clock is family time, so don't contact me then. Well, you can contact me. I just won't email you right away. But anyway, you get my point. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to be silly. Okay, so what else? We have instructor, we have syllabus. So here's the syllabus that I just showed you, the communication plan. So it's right there. So if you're ever wondering, there we go. Okay, course materials. So here are the Amazon links to everything in case you need them. But again, these are just suggested links if you have your own. And if you don't want to use a computer mouse, you don't have to. It's okay. What you do need, though, is to download our software that we're going to be using called Logger Pro. Now, this is it's simple. You just should be able to click on this, and it gives you the link to download it. If you have older computer, I have all the links for that and how to do that. Most of you probably have newer computers, Windows 10 and the Mac 10. So as long as you have that, these are pretty straightforward. Now, the good news is Lab 0, you're going to do this. So if you want to do it in advance, that's actually better. If you do this right now after you watch this video, you're already ahead of the game. But that's kind of what Lab 0 is going to be like. It's just kind of getting used to this idea in the program. Let's go back. And then here are the things that, you need Excel or graphing software. Here's all about Excel. When you do that, if you don't have Excel already. If you get some scanner apps, these are the best ones at a glance. ScanBot and CamScan are kind of the most popular, and Adobe Scan. Those are just really good ones to have, even probably for your physics course itself, if they ask you to submit your work. Padlet. So It's super simple to use this. In fact, I'm going to show you really quick. This is kind of the idea. You know, I actually had my friends come in and make sure it worked. But yeah, this is what you're going to do. You're going to post your lab data, and you know, it's pretty simple. You just, there should be a plus sign. I think it's, yeah, my recordings. You just click here and you just add image, video, whatever you want. It's really simple stuff. You'll have one for each lab. I'll put the link up. Pretty simple stuff, guys and gals. So let's see. Okay, so that's all that. Our lab schedule, it's always good to know what we're doing. It may change, just know that, but of course you'll know if I change the lab setup or whatever for whatever reason, you'll know in advance, but this is pretty much our lab schedule. Here's the most important link. The labs themselves are all in content folders, as you can see. So when you open up a content folder, I'm specifically going to open up one that has lots of stuff in it. There we go. So you should see about 4 things. One, you'll have your pre-lab. Now your pre-lab is a set of multiple choice questions that you're required to answer. The answers are in the lab. They're not meant to be hard. They're meant to get you to read the lab. They're literally meant to do that. When I write the pre-lab, I have the lab next to it, and I'm like, what does the TOF mean? And you go into the lab and you read it, and you find TOF means time of flight, and you click that answer. Really not meant to get you, okay? And it's meant to get you to read the lab. That's what it's meant to do. So they're not super hard. They should take you 10 minutes, not even. A lot of people do them right before the lab, which is fine actually because it's fresh in your memory. So you'll find your pre-lab here. You should also find your labs themselves. There are 2 things with lab. Notice that one says instructions and one says lab data sheet. So the instructions are exactly what you might imagine. So they are your lab directions. So here's the lab, your objectives, a little bit. It's actually incredibly important you read the introduction. I know I personally hate reading things, so I get it. But this literally tells you how the theory works and will help you answer the analysis questions. Once again, I write these with a, you know, the introduction actually relates to the analysis questions. So please read them. It has lots of really good information. And how to do the lab, blah, 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 blah. Okay, procedure. So it has all your procedures here. I write it step by step, so hopefully these should be pretty good to follow. And then you'll have a calculation section, and you have analysis. So this is the instructions. I do not want this when you submit your lab. I will repeat, I do not want your instructions. What I do want is the lab data sheet. Now the lab data sheet is where you put all your answers, essentially. So if you take a look here, lab data sheet, your lab, and then what you'll see is a couple things. So for this one, it's going to have you copy and paste this graph, and then you're going to copy and paste it underneath here, and then etc. If I want you to show calculations, I'll have a spot for you. Sorry about my phone there. Annoying, right? Okay. I'll have a spot for you. So, you know, for example, if you're calculating percent difference, you know, 20 meters per second minus 21 meters per second. Now, I highly recommend you use this feature, which is the insert equation. It just makes things so much nicer. So I could do that. And I want to do percent difference, so I need a fraction over 20.5 meters per second times 100 equals, I'm going to make up the number because I'm not calculating this. Okay, so that's what I want you to do. I want you to use the equation. If it's a very simple thing like 1 plus 2, you don't need the equation editor, but for most part, use the equation editor. Put in your calculation with units, even with percent error and difference. That is showing me you know what values you're using. It's very important to put your units there. Sometimes I'll just ask for a number. So what's the slope of this 14 or 2.4 meters per second? You don't actually have to add, if I have the units up here, you don't have to be redundant with units. So if you're just putting a value, that's fine. Look at that. Make it presentable and professional, you know, don't put it like way in the corner, it looks weird. You know, make sure you do it like that. And then analysis questions you can literally answer just underneath. If you want to be awesome, you can change the color, because then I can distinguish between it. But I like having the question there. They're literally copying and pasted from the instructions, but having the question there helps you kind of, I don't know, I would hate looking back and forth. I think it's just nicer to have the question there. And then, yeah, you just offer your answers here. And then that's how I'll grade them. So so this is what I want you to actually submit, this document, because it gets rid of all the procedure. I don't need that. I know what you're doing. And then you're going to turn it in. I know in some of them it says lab turn in, some of them it has it like this, but either way you'll see the symbol for the assignment. I think all of you are pretty comfortable with this at this point. And then you'll go ahead and you're going to, of course, browse your computer, update. If you have any comments, you know, this is for communication, so, you know, maybe you tell me, like, you know, I really had trouble with this section, you know, I thought it was this, let me know if it was in the right direction. Or, you know, I had some comments like, hey, this was a really fun lab, or this was funny that this happened, or I really learned from this, or this was really difficult for me, I found this way too challenging. So you can give me some comments. They don't affect your grade. They're literally there to help me understand the lab and, you know, how you interpret the lab better. So going back, the way I'm going to grade you, I'll show you, is I have a rubric that will be online, just like that, and you'll be able to see your rubric with scores. So I should be able to show you a preview. Here it is. Okay. So as you can see, it's that same thing that I have there, and I have it kind of as novice, competent, proficient, but honestly, it's more about the point values. So I'm not going to choose like a whole column. I'm going to pick and choose, because you might be proficient in something, but maybe novice over here, you know. But I will click on this, give you the point value, and if I needed to really specify something, I can actually give you comments on this too. So it's a really, really powerful source. You should be able to see your score and the comments, so both of those things should be displayed for you. And they're of 100 points, so they're super easy to interpret. If you get 87, it's an 87. You know, it's not like the, you know, the weird point system. So it's pretty easy. Okay. Actually, did I press submit? For some odd reason, I don't think it worked. Add rubric, that's another, yeah, sorry about that. Live troubleshooting. Submit. Yes. Yes, you should see everything. Submit, there we go. Okay. Alright, so if there are additional things you need, like for example, you might need some files. You'll see them here, the motion files. We do this for motion tracking. They should be right here. I anticipate that nothing will go wrong. Of course, something's going to go wrong. So if for some reason these don't work, I have all the files, and if the files are too big or something, I have contingency plans. So just know that moving forward. And then lastly, you have your motion quiz. So the quizzes are going to work as the following. All your quizzes are going to be 45 minutes long, automatic submission. It won't take you 45 minutes. It will take you 15 maybe. All the quizzes are the same. What you're going to do is you're basically going to comment on the objectives of the lab. Please address each objective with a minimum of 250 words. I'm actually going to just tell you that I'm just going to clarify this, because I noticed now I'm reading it that it doesn't looks like each of these are 250. No, the whole thing has to be 250, not each of these. So I'll specify that. But the point is, what I want you to do is comment on whether or not you met these objectives. So use vernier capture software to measure the velocity and acceleration using those two things. So did you not? But of course I want more elaboration. So yes, during the lab we were able to measure the object's velocity using a distance versus time graph, and find an acceleration using distance versus time by notifying the curve in the graph. You need to do the lab to know that that's how you do that part. So verify the kinematic equations graphically. So in other words, during the lab we were able to identify that the slope of the graph is in fact identical to the velocity of the graph, verifying the kinematic equations. So as you can see, I have an example one as well, so you could look at it, but every week you're going to kind of basically write a reflection on the lab. These are going to be graded really quickly out of 10. They're going to be 10 points each. And it's whether or not you understood the lab as a whole. Can you explain and translate the lab? So that's what these are kind of all about. You can even think about these before, since you kind of know. I just have it as a quiz here because then it's in a nice little spot when I do that, and when I grade it, it has a little quiz like kind of feature. So it's actually more of a reflective piece, and you'll have to do that before the next lab. So as you can see, I might have more things like a simulation. One of your labs is going to be a PhET simulation. So here's what it looks like. These labs are actually really good because they're super easy to use. You're going to be timing with a stopwatch with this. I mean, it's very user-friendly, everything that we're going to be doing. I feel like I'm going to eat those words, but let's pretend that everything is going to be user-friendly. Trust me, it has to be user-friendly because I got through it. So anyway, the point is, hopefully, everything you have here, I might even have intro videos. This is not common, but sometimes it's just nice to have a lesson or something like that. Oh, this is embarrassing. I'm wearing the same shirt. That's all right. Anyway, this is actually incredibly important, so please watch this before Lab 1. I mean, you could read the whole thing. Lab 1, you could read it, and I have it here, or I have it as a video. It's kind of long, I'm sorry. It's a lot of information. Grab your favorite coffee, beverage, water, whatever, and make it a show. Okay. You can see I'm kind of silly and ridiculous, and I apologize. No, I don't apologize for it. Okay. Anyway, let's see. Yeah, so you can see all your labs will be populated with everything. Not all your labs are populated right now. There's the last half of the labs I just got the videos for, so I'm working on getting those out to you, but don't worry. I've already done most of your labs already. As you can see, everything will be there. The quiz information, so this is how I'm going to grade your quiz. This is a little bit about what I talked about. It is informal writing, but make sure you have professionalism and clarity on your work. You're not just like blah, 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 blah. And I'm grading you out of 10 points with the focus on, understanding the lab, discussing the objectives, and meeting that word count. So I'm going to count your words. It's going to be fair to everybody. Here's an example from a previous lab of what I want, so you can kind of see a model, the type of answer I'm looking for, and I wrote this, so this is my answer, and how to do it. So this is more than 250 words. It's okay to use more than 250. 250 is about a dense paragraph. I'm asking for a dense paragraph on all this. You may need more than one dense paragraph, and that's okay. Groups. I'm going to put you in groups, and these are your lab groups. You're going to get to know your lab groups. Open group. I put you in groups because you can actually share things between each other. Group tools like file exchange, tasks, send emails. So it's just a really awesome way to kind of keep communication open with your group members. I may change groups. I don't know yet. We'll find out. But this is your lab group. This is the link that you'll use to get to our class. This is for Section 1, Mondays at 10 a.m. You click on this link. You literally click the button. It's updated per date and time, and you should just be able to click in. Or if you want, I don't know, if I were you, I would have all my meeting IDs and posted on the wall, and you could just open up Zoom and type in the meeting ID. Doesn't matter. They both work. There'll be a waiting room, and I'll let you in, and it's pretty straightforward. And then my office hours. These are the links for the office hours. Like I said, I may be changing this office hour, the 2 p.m. to 1 p.m., but I'll let you know. You'll know, and it'll be changed there. So you just click on this link or go to this meeting ID. Either way sends you to my office hours. So your course grade will be live and updated. There was a course grade. There it is. Of course, this is the instructor view, but you'll see a course grade, and it should be a live capture of your grade at any one moment in class. Just FYI, remember that it's, you know, a moment in time and not the actual grade. So if you look at your grade on Monday, it may change on Friday, it may change at the end of the course because that is a dynamic value. So just because you have an A at one point doesn't mean it's going to be A throughout the whole year. You know this, but just FYI. So yeah, but it should at least reflect the, I have it already in programs, so it's, you know, if you do the pre-lab, the lab, and the quiz, it should be 80, 15, 5, and it should be accurately depicting your grade, so it shouldn't be a mystery what your grade is at any one point. And of course, the, you know, please keep an eye on your grade. I do make mistakes, not because I'm terrible, it's because sometimes even like I'll type in 100 on this is 0. So then all of a sudden your grade goes from 100 to a 10, of course, boom, panic, right? I'm really not trying to do that to you. But if you know that, you know, the lab was right and, you know, I got a 10 on it, it's probably because I typed it in wrong. Just give me a heads up on it. Or if anything like that, or if you are confused, like I got a 75, I thought I had 100. What went wrong? I'm glad to talk to you about that literally anytime. That's my job. But hopefully you'll never have that question because everything will be clear and you know what to do and everything's laid out for you. And of course my job is to teach you some physics. So hopefully you learn a lot of physics. You learn about, you know, how to use some tools and measurements, even if it is online. So I know this is long. Sorry. Okay. So the last thing I just want to show you really quick is what it might look like for your, really quick. I'm not going to go crazy because I can go crazy, but I won't. I'm going to go ahead and do this. So some of the labs that we're going to do are going to use this program called Vernier. It is super simple to use. The directions make it look very daunting, but it's actually very intuitive. So we're going to do a video analysis, and notice that this is taking a little while. See my mouse kind of like doing that because they're video files, so they're a little large. So just, you know, be patient when you download some of these files that have videos associated with them. There you go. And there's me. Yes, I look terrible. That's okay. So anyway, it's pretty cool. We're going to do video tracking. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to find when this thing actually starts to move. See? Actually, I'll play the video. I take it, I push it. It hits a thing and it comes back. This is actually in BC 101. This is real data from our classroom. So that's really cool too. It's not like somebody else's data. So what you're going to do is you're going to actually track the motion of this. So I have to wait till after it leaves my hand. So notice it left my hand. Don't worry, you don't need to memorize this. I'm just showing you. So, you know, you set the origin. And then I track it. I take the dot. And I like to go 4 frames at a time. 1, 2, 3, 4, because otherwise it gets tedious. And then plot it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm picking right in the middle here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And see what I'm doing? I'm tracking it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Plot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Plot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you get the idea. So I'm tracking it, which is pretty neat. And you could see simultaneously I'm making a graph of time and position because it knows this information. It's pretty smart. So what I could do is I could take this and say I know that this track is 2 meters. So now I could take measurements. If I wanted to know how big this cart is, there it is. It's 10 centimeters long, or 11. The height of this track, if I wanted it, here to the edge of the table. Oops, wrong one. Is that. So I can actually take distance measurements without actually physically being here. Isn't that really cool? And I could get things like the velocity. I could do that by highlighting this and getting the slope. You'll learn all about this. And look, I've got the velocity 0.3857. I can't read. 0.3867. Like that. So this is like your lab. You're going to be plotting some of this. And you're going to see some interesting features in a distance versus time graph and an acceleration versus time graph. So we got some really cool things coming up. There are also some labs where you're going to, just like I showed you in the pendulum demonstration. I think I have, yeah, I closed it, where you're going to be timing things. So it's your data. You're not going to be sitting there in front of a computer and like watching stuff. You're going to be interacting with the physics equipment. It is most of your lab. I'm looking at your lab schedule, is actually the labs you would have done. I just translated them to online, so a little more. Of course, it's a little different, but they're very similar to the traditional physics course. Okay, I talk a lot. I'm sorry. I apologize. I do talk. But I just wanted to make sure you are informed, you know how the course works, you know what to expect, how things are going to work, and everything. And I hope I've answered a lot of your questions, including how the course was graded, how the course is done, where to find things, and what to expect with that. So I look forward to our first day, which is October 24th. That's Monday. Monday, I'm going to assume you've watched this video, so I'm not going to spend time on this. I'm going to go right into Physics Lab 0, where we're just basically going to play around with all the features that I talked about, and it's just it's the easiest lab you do all semester. It's a gift. And it's just getting our feet wet in terms of what to expect with the breakout rooms, with using vernier and all this fun stuff, making sure that we can do everything, and then we'll hit the ground running with Lab 1 with all the physics content. All right, I look forward to meeting all of you and working with you this semester. It's going to be an interesting one, but we can make the best of it, and that's what we're going to do. All right, I'll see you all on Monday. Take care.